Paris Saint-Germain have been ordered to pay Kylian Mbappé more than 60 million euros, following a decisive ruling by a French labor court. The court found that PSG unfairly withheld 3 months of Mbappé's wages.
PSG is about to pay Mbappe £60 million, and the reason is actually insane. A court ruling found that PSG failed to pay 3 months of Mbappe's wages. On top of that, there was an unpaid ethics bonus and the final installment of his signing-on bonus. Mbappe had initially sought for €263 million.
The Paris Labor Court ruled that Paris Saint-Germain must pay Kylian Mbappé more than €60 million in unpaid wages and bonuses. The judgment confirmed that the club failed to honor the final financial obligations of Mbappé's contract. The ruling was clear and uncompromising. Football clubs are employers, players are employees, and contracts remain binding until the very last day.
There's an acrimonious dispute between Paris Saint-Germain and one of their former stars, Kylian Mbappé, reaching the Labour Court in Paris. Mbappé being awarded 60 million euros. He had actually been seeking 263 million euros.
The dispute emerged quietly after Mbappé left PSG at the end of his contract and joined Real Madrid. While the football world focused on his new chapter in Spain, a legal confrontation was already unfolding behind closed doors. At the center of the case were salaries and bonuses that Mbappé claimed were never paid during the final months of his time in Paris, the final contract year.
Dismissal and unpaid salary, effectively having to ask the court to consider his fixed-term contract to be a permanent one. He claims that he was denied salary in the final months of his time at Paris Saint-Germain in 2024.
During the last season of his PSG contract, Mbappé remained one of the most decisive players in European football. Despite uncertainty surrounding his future, he continued to train, play, and deliver performances on the pitch. Off the pitch, however, the relationship between the player and the club became increasingly strained. PSG wanted clarity, either a contract extension.
He was able to leave on a free transfer for Real Madrid, so Paris Saint-Germain receiving absolutely no fee at all. And why this is so significant is because
or a transfer that would generate a record-breaking fee. Mbappé chose a third option, letting his contract expire. Legally, this was entirely within his rights. That decision, however, triggered internal tension that later became central to the court proceedings: unpaid salaries and delayed bonuses. As the season moved toward its conclusion, Mbappé claimed that several monthly salaries were withheld. Alongside those salaries were loyalty bonuses that were explicitly written into his contract. According to Mbappé's legal filings, these payments were earned, due, and never waived. PSG argued that these sums were conditional and that internal discussions had taken place in which Mbappé allegedly agreed to give up part of the money. The court examined this claim and found no written proof supporting PSG's version of events. Without a signed document, the claim held no legal value. Delphine Verheyden, Kylian Mbappé's lawyer, centered the case on one principle: the written contract. She argued that Mbappé never signed any waiver and never consented to forfeiting salary or bonuses. Verheyden emphasized that pressure, isolation, or informal discussions do not replace legal consent. According to her, the club's actions reflected an attempt to renegotiate a contract without documentation. The court accepted this argument in full, reinforcing the primacy of written agreements. Nasser Al-Khelaifi, PSG's defense. PSG president Nasser Al-Khelaifi defended the club's actions by highlighting financial damage. He argued that Mbappé's refusal to renew his contract deprived PSG of a massive transfer fee, harming the club economically. The court rejected this reasoning completely. Judges ruled that a potential transfer fee is speculative and unrelated to employment obligations. A club cannot withhold wages as compensation for hypothetical future losses. Contractual freedom, the court stated, cannot be punished retroactively. Isolation and squad decisions. During the dispute, Mbappé was excluded from certain pre-season activities and trained away from the main group group for a period. PSG maintained that these decisions were purely sporting. While the court did not interfere with team selection policies, it acknowledged the broader employment environment. The ruling made clear that regardless of squad status or internal discipline, financial obligations remain fully enforceable until a contract ends. The loyalty bonus waiver claim. PSG's central defense rested on the claim that Mbappé verbally agreed to waive loyalty bonuses. According to the club, this was part of an internal compromise allowing his reintegration into the squad. The court dismissed this claim entirely. Judges stated that waiving financial rights requires explicit written consent. Without a signed waiver, the loyalty bonuses remained valid and payable under the original contract terms. Dismissed counterclaims. PSG attempted to counter Mbappé's case by suggesting lack of cooperation and implied professional misconduct. The court reviewed these claims and found no supporting evidence. All counterclaims were dismissed. The ruling confirmed that Mbappé fulfilled his professional duties and respected his contractual obligations throughout the season. The responsibility for unpaid sums rested solely with the club. Failed mediation. Before the verdict, mediation was proposed as an alternative solution. Mbappé's representatives rejected the proposal, arguing that unpaid wages are not negotiable. The court later supported this stance, noting that mediation cannot replace clear contractual enforcement. When payments are defined and overdue, compromise is not legally required. Real Madrid and Mbappé's silence. Throughout the legal process, Mbappé avoided public statements. After joining Real Madrid, he focused entirely on football and allowed the legal proceedings to continue without media involvement. This silence proved strategic. Court documents reflected a calm, procedural approach that strengthened Mbappé's position. There were no emotional appeals, only contracts, timelines, and unpaid sums. Core message of the ruling. The verdict delivered a direct message to football institutions. Clubs cannot rely on informal power, financial influence, or internal pressure to override employment law. Written contracts remain absolute. The ruling confirmed that professional football operates under the same legal framework as any other industry. Star status does not weaken employee rights, and sporting authority does not replace legal responsibility. The €60 million consequence. The amount ordered, more than €60 million, includes unpaid salaries, loyalty bonuses, and associated compensation. It stands as one of the most significant labor rulings involving a professional footballer. Unless overturned on appeal, the ruling is immediately enforceable. The financial consequence is substantial, but the legal precedent may prove even more impactful. A defining legal moment. For PSG, the verdict represents a costly lesson in contract enforcement. For Mbappé, it confirms that patience, discipline, and adherence to the law can prevail against institutional power. The €60 million ruling stands as a defining legal moment in modern football, one that extends far beyond a single player or club. If you appreciate deep, fact-based football stories like this one, stories that go beyond goals and trophies, make sure to subscribe to the channel. This is where the biggest moments in football are broken down with clarity, context, and detail you won't find in headlines alone. Turn on notifications so you never miss a story that truly changes the game.